4 of the making of videos for the Warlord Titan-sized Great Unclean one I'm taking to Golden Demon and Essen, Germany this year, 2025. This whole episode is about the flail, and what you can see here is a sketch of the flail, how I imagine the one of the heads of the flail being a Great Unclean one that is also itself wielding a flail, and on the end of its flail is a Nurgling that is also wielding a flail, and at the end of that Nurgling's flail is another tiny Gribbly, and so on and so forth, all the way down to viral scale. And I like the idea of, a virus, a killer virus, being actually an agent of Nurgle, but it's just so small you can't see it. And, kind of inspired by one of the Dan Abnett stories, where he mentions, viral infections, etc. Well, I suppose that's pretty normal for Nurgle, isn't it? But anyway, so this was, that was the idea behind the Great Unclean one that's hanging off of the chain. The easier bits effectively were the Titan heads. I like the idea of this creature, this Great Unclean one, being a head taker effectively, and obviously the normal opponent, or the most appropriate opponent, would be other Titans. So I've got these. I bought these Titan heads. I've messed them up to make them look like they've been used a bit. I didn't use the converted T-light on the far right because it was just too damn heavy. And the chains that I bought were all plastic. Originally I bought metal ones, but they were too heavy as well. But then you can see you've got the plastic chains, garden chains, hanging off the back there, and starting to paint them. Finished one. I didn't go to a hell of a lot of effort on these. They're just pretty basic paint jobs. Obviously I've done damage using a Dremel tool and whatever else, bashing it with chisels and God knows what else. So yeah, Titan heads. This bit was the bit with this, what's it from? One of the kits, I can't remember what it's called, where it's pumping out fumes, noxious fumes. And you've got, I took the, cut off the chimneys and added more chain. These are actually metal chains, but they're very slight, so they're not, the weight isn't too bad. Just did the usual sort of copper, green, and all that sort of effects on it. The smoke, I wanted smoke and fume coming out of these things, and I've used here, as you can see, sort of bathroom silicone sealant to create that basic effect. And there you see it again in situ. And here you see the first attachment. This was the anchor point. I needed to make sure that it was going to be survive transport, because obviously I'm going to be taking this to Germany, but also maybe to Lenton at some point, or up to Mates and wherever. It's not going to get used a hell of a lot, I can't imagine, but whenever it does, it needs to be fairly robust. So I anchored this using wire and pins and lots of hot glue from the glue gun, and that was my first basis point. And I didn't want anything else really touching it, because I wanted the rest of the flails to look like they were in flight. I glued these together using super glue and pins and whatever else off the model, and then I attached it all. You'll see it attached later. And then the flamey, fumy bit, I just did standard lighting effects with airbrush, and these are the colours I used. So a bright white, a white airbrush white, and then I did the certain highlighted bits. That big tub of white is the whitest white by Stuart Semple. It's quite expensive, 40 quid I think, something like that. And then but that gives you the real punchy white bits to make it really pop. And then all these other colours you can see, and then that tube of Winsor & Newton oil, just dilute it with a bit of white spirit, and then you can let it run into the deepest recesses where obviously the brightest light would be. And there you can see the initial dry brush. And obviously I've been dry brushing everything around it. So this is, I've finished basically painting the model. I've attached the flail, and now I'm, spraying over my paint job effectively, which is obviously a bit risky, but you get used to it. There you can see I've added the green and yellow colouring to it as well. Quite a nice light effect. I wanted smoke coming out of these little chimneys in his gun arm, so I've used the same silicone sealant, painted it brown, washed it over with, you can see the colours that I've used in the sequence I've used them. It's different from doing the flame that you saw earlier, because actually the lighter colours are in different places, so you've got to think about it a bit differently. I don't have a close-up of the smoke, unfortunately. And then the bottom of the flail, I really like I had a whole bag of marbles that I bought for the eyes, and I had them left over, and I thought, well, what am I going to do with these? They're very pretty, especially when the light comes through them. So I thought, I'll make a sort of attachment for the end of the flail, and hold it together with masking tape and super glue, and paint the masking tape gold, and that is that basically. The end of the episode. Thank you.